call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, August 6, 2014 at 9 a.m. Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and pledge of allegiance.
I would ask that we remember all of those in our community that are less fortunate than we are in any and every way. Ask that we remember those who have lost loved ones since the last time we were in these chambers. And finally, I ask our God and Creator to give us the wisdom and the proper information to make the best decisions for the citizens of the City of Erie.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from the meeting of July 16, 2014, and bills for payment on August 1st and 8th, 2014. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski is absent, Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon.
Thank you very much. Today we have the Mayor, City of Erie, with us. Welcome, Mayor. And he's going to give us a mid-year report. Thank you, sir. It's yours.
Council President, members of council, good morning. Today I present you with the 2014 mid-year financial report for the City of Erie. The figures in this report continue to reflect stability in municipal operations and cost control, as well as the advantage of the transparent budget and spending system we've implemented. It shows the continued commitment of all departments to stay within budgetary constraints, find new efficiencies, and to keep our operations affordable to the taxpayers. Once again, all of our department heads, bureau chiefs, and employees of the City of Erie are to be commended for their vigilance in these areas. As you are aware from the discussions at each of the monthly financial committee meetings, my administration has achieved a stability which has allowed us to keep the cost of doing business within budget throughout the past 8 years. We've also continued to find new operational savings to minimize the impact of annual increases in the cost of doing business. At a time when most cities across America are experiencing significant financial distress, our pledge to create an efficient, cost-effective operation has kept Erie stable and vibrant. Because of our success in redesigning the way municipalities do business, we've avoided the consequences associated with insolvency and state intervention. As the financial issues facing the federal and state governments continue to grow, it is evident that we will not be receiving additional support from these sources. Therefore, we can continue to find new ways to do more with less and to control our costs in every department so as to provide the best level of safety and services for our constituents at the lowest possible cost. This model is reflected in the numbers you will review in the body of this report. You will find that the total revenue projections are slightly above the budgeted amounts, with individual line items varying according to different circumstances that have arisen throughout the year. Although some of the state-funded entitlement grants that we are accustomed to receiving are down, we expect to collect approximately $228,000 more in total revenues than we anticipated in the budget. You will also see significant savings on the expenditure side. We are anticipating nearly $917,000 less in expenditures than was originally budgeted. This is the result of overtime savings in uniform services, as well as continually working to find additional savings in every area of the operation. The vigilance of the department heads, bureau chiefs, and managers has proven effective, and over the years, we have managed to save our taxpayers millions of dollars. One area where we are experiencing some difficulty is in our sewer fund. This year, sewer revenues are expected to be down $1.5 million due to the decreased use of the system in this comparatively wet year. We have managed to offset this impact somewhat by finding savings of over $500,000. We do, however, anticipate a total shortfall of $1 million, which will be covered by existing cash in that fund. In the refuse department, our estimates show that we will meet budget in both revenue and expenditures. Throughout this year, we have been working with the Water Authority to address the ongoing issue of delinquent bill collections. A revision to the collection agreement between the City and the Water Authority has been agreed upon, and changes to the billing system are currently being implemented. We are optimistic that this will help to eliminate the existing balances. As you review this report, you will see that all departments other than sewers are expected to again meet their target budgets. This provides, or this proves that we have been able to determine the true cost of doing business, budget accordingly, and manage our operation in order to stay within the expected expenditures. This is a pledge that we as an administration and council promised our taxpayers 8.5 years ago. We have fulfilled that promise each and every year. Our projections are only estimates, but are based on trends that we have seen throughout the course of this administration. There may be deviations in the second half of the year, but we expect all departments to operate within our budget constraints again this year. My staff and I will be available to address any questions you may have after you've had the opportunity to digest this information. I thank you for your ongoing support of this administration as we work together to make Erie a strong and financially vibrant community. We will continue on our mission to make Erie a model for cities across the Commonwealth of how they can succeed despite the challenges facing all communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Anyone on council have any questions for the mayor at this time, even though we just received it?
Question on the report? Can I ask a question, Mr. Spoon?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, while you were talking about the overview of the mid-year report, I just had a couple questions about, you said there's a shortfall in revenue in sewer.
Correct.
And you said that's going to come down to about $1 million. Is there reserves to cover that, or what are you anticipating?
There is cash balance within the fund to do that. The way the funds are structured, some years, if this was a particularly dry year, we might have more water usage, and then our revenue would probably be higher than what we would normally expect. This year, it's the opposite because of all the rain.
Right.
Water consumption is lower, and so the revenues in the fund tend to offset those ups and downs.
Okay. And I think we talked about sewer billing and the agreements with municipalities and whatnot at our last Finance Committee, but is there any way to reduce expenses when you have reduced revenue, or it's not really possible because expenses are more
Well, we've
fixed?
managed this year to reduce expenses by over $500,000.
$500,000.
And we've done that, in other years as well. So that's an ongoing mission that we've continued to do throughout this administration is to find ways in which we're able to save in these departments. And that's done regardless of the revenue trend of the particular year. That's something that we've done throughout.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you mentioned about refuse, and we, Finance Committee has been meeting with Paul and with Paul Wojtek from Water for months now, I think. 7 months, I think we met with them to talk about the issue of the garbage delinquencies. But I see you're saying that our refuse will be pretty even as far as revenues and expenses.
Pretty much.
But are I think last month I looked at the revenue was up on the delinquencies from budget. You have a feeling on that number. We obviously have brought in more than we were anticipating in delinquent collections for refuse, but are you finding that is just going to balance out, or what is your expectation for this year of 14?
That is outside of the standard budget numbers. What the numbers that we've talked about are the budget numbers for this particular year. Those would be additional income.
Additional income into the refuse and recycling fund. We already have collected 107% of our penalties and late fees at the half a year
To
mark.
answer what you're saying, as we talked about in finance also, the last couple months it has kind of leveled, it has leveled off, the revenues that are coming in on those delinquencies. There was that mad rush in once this was publicized that council and the administration were going to look into this a little more diligently. January, February, March, there was, I don't want to call it a mad dash to pay off some bills, but some delinquencies were paid off in the last 3 or 4 months. It has leveled off to the place it's been in the past. So we're looking second half collections to be about the same it's been the last few years.
So, in other words, I guess will be a continued topic at Finance Committee. I mean, you've already collected 107% of budget in the
We're
late.
looking at about 160 on the year.
So we'll obviously collect more than was budgeted in late fees in refuse, because you've already collected what's
Right.
budgeted in refuse in late and delinquent. So if we collect more than budgeted in delinquent trash, then we'll be able to have an excess, you would assume, in the refuse department's budget. Expenses aren't going up. Their expenses are meeting budget in refuse,
Yeah.
and revenue should come up ahead if we continue on this effort to collect the delinquencies. That's what I would expect.
That hypothesis holds true, yes.
And then in the next year, we'll look at, as the change in billing affects the delinquent collections, hopefully we'll be able to eventually eliminate the delinquent accounts at some point and have that extra revenue, right? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay,
Mr. Witherspoon?
yes.
I just had, just to briefly go over this, it's not really a question, but a comment. I just wanted to let the public know that pretty much in all of our departments except for 2, everyone's under budget. So when the mayor says that we're running a lean operation, you can see just from the percentage of the budget used from each department, it's all under 50%, where in the middle of the year, you would think that, they'd be on point. They're all under that, so everyone is really tightening their belt here at City Council, or in City Hall, and trying to run an efficient operation. So I thank the mayor for that, and the department heads and the departments for that, because it's really showing a understanding that the taxpayers want a lean operation, and we're doing that.
Thank you very much, Councilman Mirsky, and I agree with you, especially the folks who do the work and monitor the finances department, as well as Paul overseeing, has done a outstanding job based on what they have to work with. We can all use more income, but if it's not there, then you do the best with what you have. Very good observation. Dr. Brennan, any questions?
No.
Okay. Dr. Winarski.
Really, just a comment, just follow up with Mr. Mirsky. It's a team effort here between the administration and City Council, as well as our department heads, and naturally we appreciate the hard-fought job you do to try to stick with the budget that's presented to you. If you can beat the numbers, that only helps us for the years to come. And at this point of the year, thanks for the good work, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing nothing else on the mid-year report, Mayor, you're welcome to stay for the balance of the meeting if your schedule allows. If not, once again, thank you very much for making that presentation, and we should move on with our agenda.
Thank you.
Request for a repository sale. Are there any requests for a repository sale? Any requests for a repository sale? Hearing none, citizens to be heard. First person would be Scott Bunnell. Scott Bunnell, is he present? Okay, you have, please give us your name, address, and you have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Scott Bonnell, 4418 Persimmon Drive, Girard, Pennsylvania. I am the chairman for Rockville Lakes Erie, and also with me is Robert Tatum. He is the director for Rockville Lakes Erie. He works for the Billy Graham Association. Wanted to just give you a little brief information as far as what's coming up here on September 27th and 28th. Rock the Lakes Erie will be at the Erie Insurance Arena. It will be held in the evening. It's something that's been in the works for about 4 years. Churches, there were a number of pastors, local churches here that got together and discussed bringing the Billy Graham Association into Erie to do a crusade. And this is something that his son, Franklin Graham, is doing. There were a number of these crusades going through the United States and also out of the country. And we felt if they could come into Erie, that it would be something that Erie needs with everything that's happening here with the violence and poverty and everything that it was just, so this is just, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, for Erie. We have over 250 churches associated with this right now, expanding out into New York, as far as south as Grove City, and out west into Ohio. This is something that is going to change a lot of people's lives forever. And I'm excited about it and just wanted to let everybody know what was going on here. I want to let Robert just take a few minutes and give us a little bit of a briefing on what exactly, a little bit more in detail.
Sure. Thank you, members of the council. It's just an honor just to kind of give you an update on what's been happening. As Scott mentioned, there are over 250 churches with some 100 plus in the Erie area that have partnered with us in some form or fashion, and so we're excited about that. There has been several training opportunities and that we have initiated and held in the community. Close to 4,000 people, including youth, have been a part of those trainings representing various churches, obviously various schools. So we're excited about that. Keeping in line with, I'm sure you're familiar with the religiosity study and doing what we can to be a catalyst to see young people be involved in religious activity, which is one of our key core values, is the principle of discipleship and or mentorship. And so we are trying our best to help the community understand the value in discipleship amongst young people, peer-to-peer mentorship. As Scott mentioned, September 27th and 28th, we're having what we call our harvest event, or our big celebration, and would love to have you, if your schedule will allow, to be one of our guests, either on the Saturday, September 27th, which we are promoting as our youth night, student night, and then Sunday, September 28th, which we are promoting as a family night. It is going to be an opportunity where we're bringing in nationally known artists, as well as Franklin Graham, who some of you may know is the CEO of Samaritan's Purse, which is a humanitarian organization, as well as the Billy Graham Association, which is headquartered in Charlotte. So we've had a great time here. We've opened an office in Lovell Place, hired about 4 people full-time, doing our part in this wonderful city, and appreciate all that Erie has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Councilman Jones.
If I could take maybe a little bit out of our normal order. I had heard about this event through my parents and a few other, members in the community, and I thought it would be appropriate to ask them to come down to just kind of use this as a forum to talk about something positive that's happening in our community. Often, sometimes people, separation of church and state and all those things, but as much as we pledge under God the flag, I think it's quite appropriate as a venue to be able to share the message about something positive in our community. We hear about so many negative things, but this is something positive, and it's going to help to put Erie on a regional map, so to speak, as well. So I thought, again, it would be appropriate for them to come through and share this. Mr. Bonnell, Mr. Tatum, thank you very much for being here. And definitely not why you did it, Mr. Bonnell, but you and your wife, meeting you a couple weeks ago, and I met you giving service to young people. And so we appreciate that. I'm sure they all appreciate that. And thank you for your volunteerism and your service to our community. even be living in Girard, but you were up in Erie helping young people. So thank you, sir, very, very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. You're welcome, sir. Next on our agenda is Mr. Randy Barnes.
Good morning, Council President, Council, Mayor,
Morning.
Staff, Administration, guests. My name is Randy Barnes, 109 Walton Point. So often I think elected officials, once they gain office, they feel they realize they vote on things every couple weeks or once a month. So once they vote on something, after a couple weeks, couple letters, the editor, couple statements, it's long gone because we're on to the next crisis, whether it be fireworks or parks or something else. You know, recently Governor Corbett has tried to get the pension problem in the news, and his solutions may be controversial, but I think everyone can agree that there are pension issues within the state, within our own community here. Right now, as of the end of 2012, the Erie pension was funded at 75%. About a 25% shortfall at the end of 2012, the latest figures. Of course, we're only minimally distressed at 75%. It's interesting, the Port Authority, they're at 72%. They're even a little bit more minimally distressed than the city. But you can't fault the employees for the pensions they collect. That would be the fault, I think, if there's a problem, of the elected officials, because they negotiate the pensions, they negotiate the contracts. I think it was a famous person said one time that once elected officials realized they could vote their own raises, that the democracy was over. It brings me to what council did a few weeks ago when they decided that the retired city clerk was needed so bad they had to pay that person a $1,000 a month stipend to come back and assist. And I wondered, before that happened, did anyone call the retired or the retiring city clerk and say, hey, if we have a problem, could we pick up the phone and maybe talk to you over the phone, get some advice? I know a lot of employees, when they work 40 years or 40 plus years, they're very dedicated and they would do everything they could to give advice. But what you did as council is you drew the attention of the public to this pension issue. Because without the resolution to pay the retired city clerk $12,000 a year, the Times News would have never published the $68,000 number pension. And again, it's not the fault of the employee. The employee only is collecting what he deserves. But again, because you offered up that resolution, I think you did the public a favor by bringing this to light, the kind of pensions that are being earned and the kind of pension problems the city has. Because, people retire from City Hall yearly and we don't see their pensions published. From the Social Security website this morning, it states that a man reaching age 65 can expect to live on average till age 84. So any of us that are or will lucky to be enough men that'll reach age 65, we hope to live till 84. So my topic this morning on council agenda was, what is $1 million? Well, besides a lot of money, $1 million is what the public will have to pay in pension for the retired city clerk if he lives to the average age of 64, which we hope he does. And so that's $1 million. That's what $1 million is. That's the pension obligation we have for a person that retires it's reached age 65 and collects a $68,000 a year pension, $1 million. It's more than 1% of your budget this year. That's just one employee. So when you start adding those things together and you add all those number of employees, you can understand why there could be a pension problem and the city has only 75% of their pension funded. You wouldn't feel very good going home at night if you knew that only 75% of your budget that you had to spend this month on your home was funded. You had a 25% shortfall. Any one of you would not be happy with that. You don't want to run a 25% shortfall. But I do hope that we do think, and there's no reason why council couldn't offer up another resolution and cancel out the last resolution to pay a retired city clerk $12,000 a year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we open it up to citizens to be heard.
We have a public hearing.
We have public at 9?
Oh, it's 9:30.
9:30?
Yes.
Okay.
Sign in. My name is Bonnie
Let's go through this
Markley.
one.
I am senior citizen residing at 1020 Cascade Street, 16502. I've addressed council before, and it's my pleasure to thank the city council and employees for their industrious work being accomplished to date. My one simple question was, when I was here in May, I had a distraction of a large 5,000 square foot antique horse barn being torn down adjacent to my property on West 10th Street, 1039 West 10th Street. Well, they tore it down. I did go to code enforcement. There was no procedure other than one gentleman in the code enforcement did help me. The code enforcement representative for that area, Donna Carson, never contacted me. Ultimately, the building was torn down. My property had destruction on it. Since May, nothing has been done. I was out of town for quite a while, so I haven't been here. I want to know, what is the city's situation on my damage, and how do I attain satisfaction to getting the damage replaced, repaired, or resolved? That's my number one suggestion to council, if they would so help me with that problem. My second question is the hotel being planned on the Bayfront, another mega venue for wonderful rich people to come and enjoy their $300, $400, $500 a night stays. Tax exempt. My other complaint is there's over 5,000, well, give or take, tax exempt properties, venues in the city of Erie, ranging from residential to mega hotels, to the Port Authority, to you name it, schools, mosques, temples, churches. Why are they all tax exempt? And when I did contact and speak with one council person personally, it's said that I have to go to the state level. Well, I think as you are my elected council people, something should be done to eliminate the excess gratuitous going to these big mega churches and everybody that has tax exempt. I resent it. As a senior citizen on Social Security, I resent it even more. The garbage, the water, the sewer, the rates that we have subsequently raised, and if I'm up, I'll quit. But I want to know where the money is going when the revenue comes in from, well, there's no revenue from tax exempt, how we are to sustain as senior citizens on a fixed income. I'd like an answer to that, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We need is the stenographer, check on that?
Oh, she's ready.
Yeah. Oh, she done. Okay, we want to,
Set up, so.
okay, she'll take, come on up there and sit here. While she's setting up, we hear from citizens to be heard. Mr. McDonald.
Good morning, council.
Morning.
You know, a while back, I was asking you about getting those cameras on those police cars, and I haven't heard anything about it. Could you bring me up to whatever you've did or thought about? Because we definitely need some cameras on those police cars. Could I get a response to that?
I talked with the police chief, and they looked into the cost, and the cost is not in the budget at this time.
Well, I think you should find some money from somewhere to put them on there, because I haven't seen nobody out there with a Bible across their face. Whatever the police say is gospel, that's the God having truth, and that ain't the way it should be. Those cameras on there, I was watching TV, Out in California, police beating the hell out of this woman laying down on her back, and he just beating on her. What if that was your wife he was beating on? You wouldn't like it at all. You'd want to do something about it yourself. I think you ought to look into putting those cameras on those cars. It's because it's going to be to your advantage too, the way things are going. Things don't look too good, not to me, what's going on out there. People come to me and tell me things. Ain't nothing I can do about it but come down here and put it in front of you. Not that you're going to do anything about it, but you will be knowing about it, because if they tell me, I'm coming to tell you. Now, somebody was telling me about police jumped out down there on Lower East Side. I mean, they beat the hell out of this guy. They put him in a wheelchair. Come to find out, it was the wrong man. It was the wrong individual that they were looking for. Now, I didn't know the police had court right there. I thought it was their job to arrest the individual and bring them down here, and so they could deal with them across the street over there. I didn't know that they were the judge and the jury, but that's a bad thing there. They shouldn't open up that can of worms, because people will lose respect for them. You know, in order to get respect, you got to give respect. And you got some good cops out there. I know you got some good ones. All of them ain't bad, but you got some out there that shouldn't even be on the police force. I don't know. I asked you before, how do you train your police? You should scrutinize them a little bit better than you've been, because you got some guys out there that they're out of control. They really are. And you'll find out in time, because people are going to get tired of being beat on. They're going to start killing. Believe that. I don't want nobody hitting me, because if you hit me, go on and kill me, because I'll be looking for you. You ain't supposed to be whooping nobody. What is the courthouse for? They got jails. Somebody break the law, bring them to jail, so the judge can deal with them over there. Not that they're going, if you're black, you're not going to get justice, but that's beside the point. God's going to give us all justice one day, and you can believe that if you want to, because he's a just God, and he will deal with you the way you have dealt with other people. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's the God-having truth. Treat people. You're no better than nobody. When you start thinking you better than somebody, you ain't as good. Think about what I'm telling you. And our kids, the mayor said that he didn't have no money to give them no jobs. I don't know, they gave some of them a job. When you put money in a kid's pocket, you're doing a good thing. Give him a job. He ain't out there holding his hand talking about gimme. Give me a job. Give that kid a job. That will go on through his life. He'll have work ethics. He will know that he can't sit back and it's going to come to him. He got to get out there and get it. You give him a job. You give a kid a job and he'll get out there and work. There are a lot of kids want a job. When I was a kid coming along, I wanted a job. I haven't been in jail for no crimes in their time. I didn't say I ain't been in there. I haven't been in there for no crime, because I worked. I used to sell papers, 4 cents a paper. My brother and I, in the wintertime, it'd be cold out there. We were out there working. Give a kid a job. Give him a chance to earn him some money. That kid wants some money. You want some money. You want some money. That's why you work. Ain't nobody going to give you. The only somebody gets something free is them foreigners coming over here now. And I don't know why you're bringing them over here, because we got enough people walking the street. But bring them on. Hell going to break loose one day, and you're going to wonder what happened. Them peoples ain't hungry to come over here. Somebody's getting their pockets padded. That's what I see. We got enough people walking the street over here. Those people's got to have somewhere to live. They got to have food to eat. I haven't heard tell of no tornado or storms going through over there, messing up nothing. Not where those peoples are coming from.
Ms. McDonald?
Yes, sir.
I know you didn't hear the buzzer, and neither did I, but I didn't either. But I was informed.
What I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business, but you better listen to something I say. I'm not just blowing hot air.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We will now go into our public hearing.
All right, we have a public hearing scheduled for 9:30, so pursuant to the provisions of proper legal advertising, a public hearing will be held today at 9:30 approximately for waterfront conditional use submitted by Kidder Walker Architecture and Design in conjunction with the Erie County Convention Center Authority for the construction of a new hotel to be attached to the existing Erie County Convention Center at 1 Sassafras Pier and parking and garage to be adjacent to the hotel with a covered walkway.
Okay, please give us your name, and you can go into your presentation.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Jeff Kidder. I'm a partner with Kidder Walker Architecture. Our office address is 201 French Street, Erie, PA 16507. And we're here today to present two projects that have been going through the process, waterfront zoning requirements. The one, as said, is a proposed hotel adjacent to the convention center. And the second project is a mixed-use parking garage and commercial space building on the GAF site. Kidder Walker Architecture is the design professional for the parking garage, and St. Combs Death Lifts is the design professional for the hotel. And we're going to break it up into two parts today. Don Death Lifts is here to talk about the hotel first, and then I will present the parking garage. A quick overview of steps to date is the hotel has been through zoning hearing board for a height variance of 61 feet versus the required 50, and that was approved. That then allowed us to go to design review, which we presented both buildings to the design review committee, which is a subcommittee of the planning commission. They had some comments. Overall, they approved it, and we addressed their comments. We then presented to the planning commission, and they didn't have anything major to report on it. That's been filed, and I believe you probably have seen their recommendation. And then that allowed us then to do this public hearing process, which we're here today to present to you. And I'm going to have Don Death Lifts now present the hotel. And if, I'm not sure format-wise, if you want to ask questions at that time of the hotel, and then we can talk about the garage, and then we can answer those at that time. So, thank you.
Well, let's have him make his presentation, and if any council want to jump in at that point while it's fresh in their mind, do so.
Good morning. I'm Don Deathlifts, CEO of St. Combs Deathlifts Architects, and I wanted to talk a bit about the hotel and describe what we're proposing. As you see on the projector over there, what we're looking at is this is Sassafras out at the waterfront. Current convention center is over here. The concept for the hotel is that it's at 191 rooms. It's 61 feet tall, 5 stories. Basically, it is an L-shaped hotel and is put directly over the current loading and parking area for the convention center. So the concept is that we are removing that service use from the waterfront, covering it up, but still providing access. So what you're seeing in this area here is an elevated deck that will cover all of that and improve the loading function, because suddenly it'll be out of the snow and out of the rain. It's a long span, relatively expensive structure that is raised about 20 feet above ground level, so we can get trucks underneath there and turned around. And then the site, the hotel is an L-shaped hotel that looks out to the bayfront, and we have a porte cochere that will link into the garage and retail area. The concept is people will be able to drive down Sassafras, trucks will be able to come in here and hidden behind doors that will all be hidden, Also, if you're dropping off, you can come through the porte cochere. We have added 6 parking spaces on site in addition to the parking garage, and there's currently 10 spaces for public access to the waterfront, and we are reconfiguring those. Currently, they're backed in at a diagonal, which we think is relatively dangerous. So we're adding 10 parallel parking, or reconfiguring them to parallel parking for easy access to the waterfront. The other concept is currently it's public access all the way around the convention center to the waterfront, and we are maintaining that. We are also adding new paths to the west of the hotel to get to the waterfront as well as provide fire truck access to all sides of the hotel and all of the convention center, which we've reviewed with the fire department. So that's a very brief description of the site, what we're doing, and then, Chip, are you able to go to the next one? So the concept is, very briefly again, the gray area is all of the loading and service functions that will now be hidden from the public for the convention center. And then what we are doing is, this is a select service hotel. The thought is that it's going to complement the Sheraton, so it will be a Courtyard by Marriott. They're finalizing that. What we will have is, from the porte cochere, we have a lot of public spaces. We have meeting rooms. We have support areas. We have deck outside that will face the waterfront, a typical fitness area, and a deck along the waterfront as well. Then up on the second level, the concept is on this level that, go ahead. So we also have a mezzanine level up at 10 feet in the air, and the concept is we will have an outdoor infinity pool. So that is to be an amenity for people coming during the summer season who come to Erie all the time for their vacation. Then on the second floor is the start of the hotel rooms, and so part of the 191 rooms here in an L-shaped. We also have an indoor pool that overlooks the outdoor pool, and then a large landscape deck that I said would be 20 feet in the air covering the loading dock. The other important concept that we're doing as part of this hotel is we will have an interior connection from the second floor, and then it goes down to the first floor to get it over the truck access, and that will provide direct access to the convention center during inclement weather or during the winter. So if it's conventioneers, they will be able to go directly from this hotel without having to go outside if it's minus 20 and snowing. And then the other concept is we are then connecting at ground level to the retail and the garage. So this is very similar to the floors. The upper floors are very similar to this, with the exception of, obviously, there's no pool on the upper floors, so this is how it continues. Again, it's 191 rooms, 61 feet high, significantly shorter than the Sheraton, which is on the opposite side to the east of the convention center. And I think that's a very brief description of what we have in the hotel.
Mr. Witherspoon? Yes. Could I just ask one clarification? You mentioned this elevated deck to hide the, whatever, trucks and stuff like that. Is that on both the new hotel and the convention center, or how are the trucks accessing the convention center?
So basically, this entire site right now, from the edge of the convention center over to about our west side, is the entire parking lot. So the way it works is, right now, about this part really is the loading function.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of staff parking. So that's what we're covering the whole thing. So we're maintaining the loading distances that are currently there. The big difference is they will be covered, and then they will be walled in on both the south and the north, so you'll never see it from the waterfront or the public. You will go through garage doors. So what I should do is go ahead and show you the renderings of what this looks like, and I would be able to point this out. These are elevations which are hard to read, straight-on images. So this is what it looks like coming down Sassafras. You'll see the retail garage on the left, porte cochere for the hotel. You see the L-shaped hotel above. So what's going to happen is, this is an openable door, and that's an openable door for the trucks. That is the second floor bridge I discussed. So what's happening is, people are coming from the hotel on the second floor. They go downstairs or elevators, so it's all ADA accessible. Then they walk over at ground level with addition to the convention center. And then the next one is looking from the air. There is the deck covering the loading portion. That and that are the doors to get you in. So those will have translucent glass, so it'll glow, but you will not be able to see all the service functions like you currently can in today, and then with the landscape deck. And then the final one, I think the final one, yes, this is from the northwest side. So what we have is, in order to kind of complement the convention center and the Sheraton, the idea is that we have a brick base with a lot of glass, and again, this is a much taller than average first story for a hotel because we have to get the trucks in on the other side, so it's 20 feet high. So it's a tall first story with a lot of glass looking out to the bayfront. We have the public walkway around. Obviously, for public access, we have the ability to come down the slope in the winter when it's direct, when the lake is iced over. You can come right down from the pathways to there. This is a bar and restaurant area here. This is the outdoor infinity pool. That's the indoor pool inside, and then hotel rooms on either side. So that's what it looks like. We're trying to complement both the convention center and the Sheraton with the high level of quality materials that were used on those facilities.
Thank you.
Questions? Continue, please.
The parking garage is necessary to continue to serve the convention center, the new hotel, and then in anticipation of future development on the GAF site. So right now, the garage, and we are attaching some commercial space to it so that it isn't just a parking garage sitting down there all by itself. And I'll get into a little bit of phasing discussion with that later. The location of the garage is located right here, directly south of the hotel, and on the west side of Sassafras. And this shape right there, that dashed line, is called the DNAPL area, and that is some underground material that is left over from the GAF plant that will remain on site, and as this is a brownfield, and that is an area that we are going to keep and is being contained properly per all the rules and regulations, but only certain things can be built on top of it. You cannot have housing on top of it, so it can either be green space or it can be parking garage is an appropriate use to put over top of it. So because it's there, this little diagonal line right here is a slurry wall that has been put in as part of the remediation to hold it in place underground. So everything has been done under the ground necessary to comply with cleaning up the site. But over top of it, we're putting a garage to cap it. And it is pretty much in the middle of the whole site, and we call the GAF site is this area here, and this is a convention center site, but we really talk about the whole thing as a Sassafras Street pier. And so this being in the middle of the site with the hotel here now, and with the intent of the garage to serve the whole site, we have decided to locate the garage at this location because it can serve solve multiple issues. On the north end of the garage is ground floor at grade commercial space so that we can start to create this outdoor communal space that is both vehicular use and pedestrian use. So it's the front door to the hotel, and it also gives frontage here and kind of begins to finish off this space here to make it a nice, pleasant, viable, functioning little beginning. This is going to take a long time to build out this GAF site, so we're starting at this location. So the convention center front door is here, and all these three form kind of a triangle to start development down here. Next. Pretty straightforward, 2 bay, 287 car garage, 3 levels, 1 at grade, 2 elevated. Access to the garage in and out is here on Sassafras. So you come in and pretty much just circulate up through a garage like you do in any other double bay garage, and then you come out and go this way. Now on this end is this commercial retail space, and the value of this location is it does get views, it does create the shortest path to where the people are. already with the convention center and hopefully the hotel, and really starts to set a precedence on how to create streets and public spaces and building massing and facades on this whole GAF site. We'll show in some other images, but what we're proposing here is about 8,200 square feet of retail, because we feel that's about what can be accommodated for right now, what the market will support. It is divided in two because the garage access is through here, and that's directly in line with the front door of the hotel right here. So we have the shortest path from the garage where the elevator and stairs are. So if guests or other visitors park in the garage here, they come down here, they go through here, and they go right across to the hotel, or they go out to the water, or they go to the convention center, all out of that same front door. The reason this looks like it does is that we are basically land banking or holding space here so that in the future, when the demand rises and the market supports it, this retail space can be wrapped around the building and give a facade and usable, viable space to this side of the garage facing Sassafras, so that we're not killing Sassafras Street by putting a single-use parking garage there. And that'll come as the site develops. Next.
Mr. Kidder, before you go too much further. Okay, so the parking garage there, you're across the street, Sassafras, and then there's surface parking on the other side. But was there consideration of putting a parking garage on top of the already existing surface parking? Because there's parking now on both sides of Sass, will be on both sides of Sass, right?
At this point, the existing surface parking is staying as is. And when the decision to locate the parking or the hotel was for this location on the convention center property, west of the convention center, so that this garage could serve both all this other future development, serve the hotel and serve the convention center, we determined this was the best location for the parking garage.
For future development, more so than, I mean, how many spaces are you required for the hotel? 191 or?
Well, down in waterfront zoning, you only have to meet 50% of the parking requirements, but we don't want to.
So you need 100 spots required by law, but you
Right.
have 287.
287, yes.
And the existing parking over on the other side
Will stay that way for now.
just stays as surface
For now.
parking?
Part of what we're going to be doing is looking at the master planning of the whole site. And we don't know at this point if this will stay like this forever or we'll propose other development of that space in the future. The garage right now is being built structurally to handle 2 more levels of parking on top of it, so that we could add about 2 more hundred spaces on top with a level 4 and a level 5. But right now, the demand isn't there for that and the financing isn't there for that.
Okay. Now, the new hotel on this drawing, okay, so this parking garage will be for folks coming to stay at that hotel, right?
It'll be for anybody that wants to visit anything down here.
What did they say about getting into the hotel without having to go out in the cold? It's not
That's
happening?
between the hotel and the convention center.
Oh, okay,
It's
if you came in
enclosed.
through the convention
connection
center.
between the garage and the hotel is covered, but it's not enclosed.
But if a visitor wants to stay at the new Courtyard Hotel, they would come, if they came through the regular circle drop-off or whatever, sign in, go park their car at the parking garage, and drag their luggage across through the 12 inches of snow or whatever, without having any kind of covered entranceway from their parking.
I would say that typically arrival at a hotel is you pull up to the front door, you check
Drop
in,
off.
you drop off your travelers, your baggage, and then you go park the car. And then, yes, you would go back here, you'd park your car, you'd walk through here, you'd walk under the covered connector that would have we're proposing a heated sidewalk.
Okay,
So
so
for
some
snow
protection from the elements.
And then there is a roof over it. But because of this driveway through here, it's a one-way loop. You come up to the front door, park, unload, you come around and come out. We have to have cars passing through that crossing that, so we can't enclose it the whole way. And plus, the intent is that this is all public. You know, you can go here, and anybody can walk through here, and it will never be closed off by doors and locked up at night or anything. So this is all completely free to pass through this area here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
What about, I'm concerned about public access down there as far as walking as far west as we do now and as far east. Are we talking about putting any gates or blockage there?
No. Right now, it has been prior to the development of this public access. You stopped right here, you know, at the convention center, and you stopped at the Water Authority property. And now with this improved new walkway here, you'll be able to go now all the way along this edge, all the way over to the Water Authority property. So this is actually completing a missing tooth. And it will not be locked off like the Water Authority does to their little part there. They lock that off at night around their administration building. And then there's the one pier out at the one marina that they lock off at night. This will be completely public access 24 hours a day.
Mr. President, quick question. Two questions. So the parking ramp right now is sized for the hotel and the commercial, or is it for extra?
Actually, it's oversized.
It's oversized. Okay, so it's covering both of those plus more on top of that. And the second question was for the upper plaza. Is that accessible to the general public, or that's just for the hotel? The upper plaza that's above.
Generally, it's a piece of the hotel, but the concept is anyone can get up there if you go through the lobby. So there's two ways to get up there. You go through the hotel lobby, or you come over from the convention center lobby and up. So if either of those is open, you'd be able to get up there. So the idea, I think, is that it will be managed not only for hotel events, but create a nice space for convention events. There's really not that big of a garden, so we could get up to 1,000 people on the deck, code-wise, for either hotel or convention type events, outdoor parties, those kind of things. But anyone can pretty much get up there as long as you can get through the hotel lobby, you can get up there and then get out onto the deck.
Councilman Jones.
Yeah, just a quick question. You mentioned about the the capping of some underground issues. Is there a life span on that capping process? You know what I mean? Is this like 100 years, 50 years, or before we have to maybe have any kind of concerns of the capping process deteriorating or anything like that?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
No. It just stays there.
I mean, yeah, that's good news. I mean, I just wasn't sure, you know, because we're building so many wonderful things and we're planning so many wonderful things that'll last beyond hopefully all of our lifetime. Just wanted to sure how that could potentially be an issue in the future, or if that had been thought about.
It's just being capped and stabilizing it where it is. Structurally, everything down here is built on caissons.
Okay.
Or piers, basically. Right. So every column has a concrete pier that goes down and hits the rock, the bedrock. So it's basically on stilts.
Right.
So that anything that you would consider dirt or earth, whatever, is basically not carrying anything. It's just taking up space.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Kidder?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. The one thing there with the parking garage, that retail area, that will be taxable properties that we can collect taxes off of. Those, I think the citizens would like to know that this isn't a complete tax-exempt project going on here. We get that retail there and the proposed future retail, that will bring some tax dollars to the community.
Right. And the garages cost money, and it's good infrastructure, good enticement for letting other development happen on the site and be shared by all future developers on the site, no matter if it's individual smaller buildings. But the goal is this is too valuable land to make it all surface parking. So it is going to be a mix eventually down the road of structured parking, surface parking, on-street parking. And right now, this is just the beginning. It's, we got to start somewhere, and this is the first piece. And I understand all the comments about all this existing surface parking, and the intent is that at some point, some of that potentially could go away and be better developed. Okay? We just have some more pictures to run through. This is just a close-up of the garage structure and the retail, and we can run through that. So here's the elevations. It's a pretty simple cast-in-place concrete garage, and then this is, and we have some other views, but this would be the retail commercial space that would face the hotel. And here you can get an overview of the whole site. Now this, everything that's green is what I think we all consider the Sassafras Street Pier. To date, this has been known as the Convention Center property, and then this is the GAF property. And there's a diagonal line between the hotel and the garage that is a property line between Convention Center and GAF property. But you can see that all of this green here is still available for continued future development of the GAF site. So really, we're locating the garage in the middle of it, the most interior location of the site, on top of this DNAPL area. And being that it is structured parking, it really is creates the shortest distance to all corners of the property. So we know the waterfront is the most desirable part of the site because of the views and the access. We also have the Bayfront Parkway here from a high traffic, high visibility standpoint for other businesses to potentially locate in the future. So the goal here is to find a mixed use neighborhood with commercial, with retail, with office use, with housing, and different types of housing. And the one thing nobody wants to look at is a parking garage. So we've kind of put that in the middle of the site and starting to anticipate wrapping it and hiding and disguising it. So that's kind of multiple reasons why we put it where it is. Just some other views of it here to show scale. And keep going. Here's a little closer up, but you can start to see how we're starting to make a streetscape, balance of the cars, the trucks, the people, the views. Architecturally, we're using a palette of cast stone and brick and aluminum window and glass. We're trying to be respectful to the history of the Bayfront, so you have buildings like the Maritime Museum, the former Penelec building, you have the Waterworks buildings. We're not trying to recreate those buildings verbatim, we're just trying to use a material palette, try to take the function of these commercial retail spaces and mix it together and make it all really complement each other rather than trying to copy. We are providing outdoor areas. If these were to be restaurants, there are potential for outdoor areas, just like the Cove or Smugglers has, Rum Runners. And then here's this connector between them. And this is a view looking back at the Sheraton and the front door of the Convention Center over here. Go ahead, Chip. This is Sassafras looking west toward the bay. One thing to realize with the grades that are down there, the existing grades we have to work with, if you drive down to the end of Sassafras now and you look west, you can't see the water. The existing grade is up about 6 feet, and we have to keep that grade there because there's a drainage pipe that's there, and we can't lower it any. So all the access here accommodates that grade and gets you up, and then once you get up to this point, it slopes gently down to the water, and those are the realities of the site that we have to work with. So there isn't a view of the water now from Sassafras, and we're not making it any worse than it is. We're actually improving access to that because we are providing these sidewalks and roadways and making it accessible now to everybody. And that's what this area between the hotel is 100% publicly accessible. Go ahead. Part of what I begin to mention about future retail space, commercial space along Sassafras here is the ability to really screen the whole garage from the center part of the site. We're also making the roof of the commercial space be structured as a floor so that down the road, if the demand is there, we're not trying to back ourselves into a corner. We have the ability to actually add floors on top of the commercial space too. And the way the parking garage, stairs, and elevators are all being designed, it's so that they can also serve upper floors of this bar of space around the garage. So we're trying to think about the future. We're trying to put in as much as we can now so that we have potential down there. And so this just shows if two levels were added to the garage and if there were additional floors wrapped around the garage here. Chip, is that? So you can kind of see here what the potential is down there. I think that's all we have right now. We've gone through the waterfront zoning requirements for lighting and landscape and signage and all that stuff, which we don't have all that to show you today, but we did that with the Planning Commission. So, are there any questions?
Mr. President, just a question on parking, and I hope I can ask it the right way without it sounding silly. The existing parking for the convention center that is there, the at street level parking there, right? As we're developing this project out and moving further into the previously JAF site, is that parking solely for the use of the convention center and its activities? Or like, I mean, I don't know, I don't go down there except for activities. I don't like park down there and go ride or anything like that. So is it, or is it used for anyone right now that could go down there and pull their bike off the back of their car and ride around?
Part of the agreement with building the convention center is that there's 55 spaces in this parking lot that are to be used
just for
general public, as long as it doesn't, I mean, if there's an event at the convention center, there's not 55 spots that convention people can't park in, but any other time that there isn't a major event at the convention center, part of the deed was to require 55 off-street parking spaces for general public use, and that's how they're there, and that's how it's been used.
Okay.
The 10 in the street are also there, as Don mentioned, and they're head-in. We're just turning them because we're going to be putting new curbs and sidewalks in on that west side of Sassafras.
Sure.
We're leaving those 10 spots in this Sassafras Street right away where they are now. Instead of this way, we're turning them this way. So we're still maintaining all the requirements of what was written into the convention center project.
Mm-hmm. So as the development continues to grow out and more, whatever is going to be mixed use, homes, living quarters, businesses, et cetera, the plan would be to accommodate parking by building up, not just moving over and utilizing the current convention center parking. It would be to build up,
right,
to increase as needed.
Right.
Okay.
And as other roads and roadways are put into the site, because this isn't just going to stay.
Sure.
As space. There is the ability to put on-street parking too. So it's going to be a balance of on-street, off-street and structured off-street and surface parking. The other thing is, I mean, we all know that when there's something down here at the convention center, this parking lot fills up.
Sure.
So to build a garage on top of it really takes, a third of that parking out of commission, and it would really disrupt the day-to-day operations of the convention center. So by building the garage, at some point, if some of this is to go away, with the capacity has been shifted and added to the structured parking. So there's some practical, logistical things that we've been thinking about too.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Mr. President? Question? Jeff, you mentioned earlier you are working on a master plan. What is the timeline for that, or when we'd start seeing the other ideas out there? I know it depends on the market, whatever could happen with a developer, but just curious about what that timeline would be.
Yeah, we're just getting started, and the goal would be as early in 2015 would be the end goal, but along the way, we'll be exploring multiple ideas and thoughts and getting input.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for the presentation today, and just to let the taxpayers know, on that parking garage, we do have a parking tax in the city of Erie, so that even though it's not a property tax revenue generator, it will be a parking tax revenue generator. And so it's not just empty space in terms of revenue generating for the city, that will be generating parking revenue for the city.
Very good. Is anything else that you'd like to present to us? Any other questions from council at this time? Hearing none, we'd like to thank you very much for your presentation. Where are we going right now? 4? Hey, are there anyone want to speak in favor of? If you want to speak in favor of, please come to the mic, give us your name and address. Anyone want to speak in favor of? Anyone want to speak in favor of? Hearing none. Anyone want to speak against the project? Please give us your name and address.
My name is William Welch, 3108 Highland Road, Erie. I'd like to make a comment on this. I think, Mr. Kidder, both of you are lead design, you're certified lead.
You want to
We can't
speak
hear,
into
you
the
got to use the
mic?
mic, we can't
Okay,
hear you.
I'm wondering whether these architects are certified lead design.
We have staff members that are, and we've also designed LEED certified buildings.
Is this building a LEED, silver LEED? I'd like to point out to a number of cities across Pennsylvania, particularly, I'll just comment. And this is something you should consider in any of these buildings, is to start saving money by LEED design. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with LEED design. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
Well, LEED design is it's leadership in energy and environmental design. I just want to quote this one quote, and then I'll give this to you, and I'd like to share it with you because other cities are doing this. We're far behind. When I heard the mayor say that this building is efficient, I look up at the lights, and they're T12 lights, and they're not even manufactured anymore. When I look at your exit signs, I see they're not LED lights. There's 22 watts. You could be saving a lot of money. You've got to start benchmarking your buildings in Erie with the EPA portfolio benchmarking. If you do that, you'll see where the savings are. And you can't ask the taxpayers to keep putting money into municipal government and everything unless you start looking at savings. And I just want to read this. Philadelphia. This is from the Mayor's Office of Sustainability in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is already a home to a number of notable green buildings, including new skyscrapers renovated, historic buildings, school buildings, and row homes. During the first year of GreenWorks, 2 laws were passed that advance green building practices in Philadelphia. The first law requires that all new construction and major renovations of large city government buildings, and this includes any authority or any other water authority or whatever have you, meet silver certification in leadership in energy and environmental design rating systems of the U.S. Green Building Council. Second, requires cool roofs that exceed Energy Star cool roof standards on all construction in the city. Both of these new laws represent the city's commitment to promote low cost. The city is not promoting low cost in Erie. It's evident by this building itself. And there's money available right now, PETA grants available up until August 15th. There's $1 million there, and I was at the meeting, and none of the people from the city were there looking for this. Now, this is crazy. There's a new program right now by First Energy, and you know the energy costs, they want to raise a 16% energy rate, percentage-wise, for homeowners and businesses. What is the city doing? These people are going to get killed with this. Why can't you establish what Philadelphia's done? Why can't you do what Pittsburgh is doing? Why can't you do what other cities across the country are doing to cut costs? You're not doing that. You're encouraging waste. And the Sierra Club supports, the actual National Sierra Club supports energy design, LEED. I've gone to several meetings. I've gone to all the meetings on this, and I can't understand why they're not in the city. For instance, I'll just give you one example. Your refuse department could use CNG gas like Waste Management's doing and save a lot of money, probably half the cost, but you're not implementing this lead, and I just want to make sure that this is part of the record. This is Philadelphia's thing. You can contact their office, and you can, I don't have copies for everyone, but please read this stuff, because unless this is implemented in this city, you're not going to save money, and the taxpayers are going to pay in the future, because you won't be able to afford as rate increases. Gas is going up, electric is going up, and yet the building is going up, tremendous quantities of windows. There's any solar in this? None. You know, Buffalo right now, one of the largest companies in the world is moving in their solar city, the same guy that did Tesla. You know, the Tesla car, I don't know if you've ever been in one or not, that's all electric. They're going to hire 1,000 people in Buffalo. Orca's coming in, and this is something you should consider for raising funds. Maybe this building could do this, is using your sewer lines to heat with heat pumps. They use water up in Michigan. All cities in Michigan are using water lines to heat their buildings with heat pumps. And that saves 80%. We're not doing that here. And I don't see any solar. I don't see any, unique type of architecture in this building. And it's got to be done. You've got to insist on it, because you can't keep going. This city's poor. When I read that 80% of the children in the city of Erie come from poor homes and have to get subsidized food, how can you ask people to keep raising taxes when you're not implementing programs which will save money? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Lisa Austin, 1262 West 9th, and I'm actually excited by the project, but Mr. Witherspoon, there was a either for or against category, and I have a few suggestions I'd like you to consider, so I put myself in the against, but I'm not totally against this project. I think that it's an exciting thing to see the Bayfront starting to be developed. I wanted to see if I could use this marker, and I think I can. There are three things I'd like to point out. If you remember the image that was shown earlier along the public access walkway at this point near where the pool is, and it didn't seem to be public access into the building, and I'm just hoping that if it's not already done so, if it could become welcoming to the people who are, say, walking along here, so that they could see this as a potential entrance to go in and have a cup of coffee, or there's some exterior seating there. In other words, to make this area something that is that feels welcoming to the general public, somebody who might not be actually going to a convention. The second thing I want to say about the public access is that I noted on some of the earlier renditions of this site plan that the public access that I believe is running here in front of what would be the commercial actually on an earlier version extended a built pathway. I think that circulation network allowing, like we have this pathway here, to continue is something that would make a lot of sense, that would make it more, you ride your bike or walk along. So the third thing I'd just like to mention for consideration is the idea that this parking deck, if it was to be built over here, as has been mentioned by a number of people, that it would impact on the day-to-day work of the convention center, that it would remove from use 300 parking spaces during the construction of such a building. I think that you might want to really still consider putting it over there. I think that the reason would be that, or one way to get around the issue of the construction itself might be to have temporary parking over here while this would be built here. The reason I'm encouraging that is because we seem to have so much parking, visible parking, as you move along the bayfront there. I know the Nick Scott development has a parking deck planned. Anyway, it just seems, it doesn't seem appealing. So I just think that also in the light of this hotel, in theory, being the lower-cost hotel, that the burden, as it would be, of moving just across Sassafras to walk is not a huge, giant issue. And I think that then it would open up this entire GIF site for future development for tax-paying entities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Are there any others to speak against the project?
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Ed Kissel, 2815 Sigsbee, representing over 3,000 members of the Sons of Lake Erie Fishing Club. First of all, I'd like to speak about the hotel and the garage, and my comments are in this manner. You have to keep in mind that Council has the authority in our waterfront zone per our zoning book that all this area along the bayfront is conditional zoning, and that means that Council can ask certain considerations be done or looked at by the developer. I have attended all the meetings that I have been aware of through public notices in the newspaper pertaining to this project, from the height variance request to the design review and the Planning Commission meetings, and to the last presentation before the Erie County Convention Center here a couple weeks ago. A question that I have, since the Convention Center Board made some suggestions, and they were the last group to review what you have seen after the height variance, design review, and Planning Commission made their remarks, does their requests or changes to their architect require another procedure for those boards to look at what the Convention Center would like to see done after other things were said about that? That's number one. The other thing I have, according to the deed restrictions that was mentioned here for the 10 parking places along Sassafras Street, that they are changing the configuration of those 10 parking places from a diagonal to a parallel. Now, the deed to the property states explicitly that any changes that are done have to go through the DEP, or Department of Environmental Resources, for that change. Not a big thing, but I'm just going by what's stated in this deed, that should be a procedure that should be done. And I voiced that at a couple different meetings that I had mentioned. With the new walkway along the water's edge, there really isn't much parking where the public can use the new parcel that's been shown to you. Over about 900 plus feet or more will be available for the public. There is 10 parking places in that horseshoe that has been designated but not committed to 100% established parking for the general public, and I would like to have council put a conditional use on those 10 parking places so that people who could come down to walk the new part of the walkway will have a shorter distance, and the only area now that could be used for that would be that area that was suggested. A few weeks ago, another developer went before the zoning hearing board on some height restrictions on a project on the east side of State Street. The zoning hearing board gave conditional use for those height elevations. However, they also put a condition in. This is the letter from the city zoning, and I'll read it, and I ask city council to take a consideration of this statement and ask the Convention Center Authority if it would be feasible. And what it states for each additional square footage of real estate created by the height variance, an additional square foot of open space is to be dedicated to the public, excluding parking lots. That was put in for the development that's being proposed on the east side, and the developer did not object to that restriction. On another matter, since we're talking about the GAF site, I believe the public was a little bit misled by some of the applications that were submitted for the walkway. And what I would like to show you is, in the application by the convention center and reviewed by the state government and by the Corps, there were public notices put out by the federal government asking for citizens' comment. On this attachment A, which I would like to bring into the record, and I'll leave a copy, it states in paragraph 2C, the site development for public recreation, residential housing, and related commercial use. Public recreation facilities will include a concrete walkway along the sheet pile wall for recreational fishing, additional safety features like railings, accessible design, and emergency use stairs, ladders, and life rings. That's from the federal government. And since I usually comment on those, and it's stated more explicitly that the convention center was going to put in some staircases so that the people who are walking that new development, if something happens and someone has to help them, it's a lot easier going down a staircase than going and trying to pull somebody up through a ladder when they're all wet. In the state water obstruction and encroachment permit, which I will also leave a copy of, the DEP file number is E25-748. And in the scenario that was given to the state, it also states that the sheet pile wall will have 2 sets of stairs to the water's surface. Now, that was approved by the state for those 2 sets of stairs. The stairs did not get put in. There's a lot in the document explaining that this is a diagram. Might not be able to see it too well from there. But if you've been down to Liberty Pier, out on the end, where the new fishing platform has been put, there are 2 sets of stairs for safety reasons for when people are down along the bayfront. The public dock has 4 sets of stairs that could aid in a rescue of someone who may fall in, plus provide wintertime access out onto the ice. So I would ask City Council to get a request in writing from the Erie Convention Center why they did not follow through with those specs by telling the public that it would be and that it isn't. I think that's deceptive, especially in 2 documents that have been put out. I did request a copy of whatever changes were supposed to be done in those permits, if any, to change what I just told you, and I haven't been able to locate a document from the Corps and or from the DEP. Although my call to the DEP did activate a letter stating that they did review it that way, and so did the Corps. However, because the plan did not show the staircases, they were not obligated to put the staircases in. But, you read what you read for what's on those pages, and I've done this for 25 plus years, and I've never seen a reversal of something like this on any projects in Erie. So I ask council, because it's conditional use, there's over $7 million that was done for that cleanup in that wall, and it's a shame for the safety of this community that those staircases were not put in. So I thank council, and again, under conditional zoning, you have the rights to consider those requests, so I thank you. And I will enter in and give documentation on all those to the stenographer. Thank you.
Ed, is there the information you presented, can you present that to Mrs. Roby, if we can make copies of it and/or obtain address, phone numbers, so we can follow up on that?
I'll give the stenographer and her a copy. I have extra copies. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak against?
Speaking against?
Actually, I'm not here to speak against Mr. Witherspoon, but I just felt compelled to enter into the council record a letter from the federal government, the Department of Corps of Engineers, that I was copied on, sent to the Sons of Lake Erie. Yeah, my name is Casey Wells, John Wells.
Yeah, I know who you are. But let me see if there's anyone to speak against first. Let's stay on that, then we'll get right to you. Are there anyone else to speak against the project? Please come up to the mic and give us your name and address.
Ed Kissel, 2815 Sigsbee. Council President, you know, I've been to enough of these. Are you going to allow, I mean, you asked for and against, and now we're going to have a rebuttal on this?
No, the way we do this is we ask for those who speak for and those who speak against. And once you're there and you're gone, then we're done. Okay?
But
now, Mr. Casey has not made any statement thus far, so I don't know if he's speaking against or for at this point.
What I may say, Mr. President, then it's a second chance if...
No.
But could I...
We aren't going to have rebuttals.
Okay.
We're just here to listen.
Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones.
And we are still open as a public hearing, and so there's additional information that needs, or evidence that needs to be offered. I don't think, and I've been in quite a few of these in the last couple of years myself, and it would be not unusual for more information to be offered. And if that's out of line, then we have a solicitor here that can rectify that with his opinion or not. But it would not be the first. I'm not asking for it. I'm not asking for it at all. I'm just saying if it ever got to that point. But again, this is just more information to be offered. I have a couple other questions that I'd like to ask even after the for and against is open. And so I don't. Again, just to say we're not out of order or out of line by continuing to take evidence.
I appreciate that. We are here to gather as much information as possible and make the most intelligent decisions we can with that information we gather. We aren't in here to argue for or against. We're here to gather information. Whether we agree or disagree, we will get together at another point in time and make a decision. Decision will not be made today. Okay. So let me ask again, is there anyone else here to speak against the project? Is there anyone else here to speak against the project?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
It's getting raucous.
Hello, Ben Pratt, 7528 Woodland Drive, Fairview. So I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk here. But I did have a question. What was the time frame looking like for the construction of all of this? And that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay, we'll get that answer for you. Is there anyone else here to speak against the project? Is there anyone else here to speak against the project? Is there anyone else to speak against the project? Hearing none, my first question is, what is the time frame? Mr. Wells.
My name is John Wells, commonly known as Casey. I'm the Executive Director of the Erie County Convention Center Authority. The time frame of the project is we look to break ground, provided we are provided with all of the approvals necessary for the construction to begin, building permits, et cetera, that essentially will generate about $200,000 to the city of Erie. And I will say that we will begin project on the hotel on or about October of this year. The parking deck won't begin until the spring of 2015. It's important that they both finish at the same time, not necessary that they start at the same time. Due to constructability issues regarding weather, site conditions, et cetera, we have a phase that the hotel will begin in October, and the parking deck and retail space will begin in the spring. I'd also, with council's permission, like to make a comment and offer some evidence to the record, contrary to what may have been purported recently. I have a letter from the department, and again, this is just to be full disclosure. I think council needs all the facts. And I have a letter dated March 12th, actually to the Sons of Lake Erie. And I'm not going to read it to you, but I would like to provide the clerk the copy to make copies. But to summarize it into one line, at this time we are satisfied that the applicant, which is the Erie County Convention Center Authority, is in compliance with the Department of Army permit relative to the seawall, stairs, life rings, safety features at the former GAF site, now known as Bayfront Place. And so the investigation relative to the appropriateness, the suitability, and the permission is clarified in this document. Thank you.
Well, you can make sure we get a copy of that and also submit a copy to the stenographer.
Okay.
Mr. President, I had a question.
Yes.
Before Mr. Kidder, in relation to, you mentioned there's certain things or a limited number of things that can be built on top of the capped area or described as the NAPL area. Can you give us what those are? Obviously, parking lot or green space. What else?
Not be residential.
Not just basically not non-residential. So it could be commercial, just non-residential.
Right.
Okay. And in relation to some of the other questions, and this is because we're trying to get information, so it's not like an indictment or anything, but some of the concerns that were brought up around the lead, utilizing the lead approach to developing this business or this building, excuse me. Can you speak to some of those issues? Maybe it's not a lead building per se, but the dynamics that were environmentally and efficiencies that are in place. Can you speak to some of those?
Yeah, basically, our office has done a number of LEED buildings, and LEED has a wide variety of criteria. You could just be certified, you go silver, gold, platinum is the highest. We've done, a few platinum, number of gold, silver. So what we generally do when the client says, when there's not a requirement and they don't tell us they want necessary LEED, we still use the list, the criteria list of that LEED puts out. So it is, just to clarify, it's not just energy. There's a lot of factors when you do a LEED building. There's how you relate to the site, there's the access, there's bicycle access, there's doing parking close, there's encouraging any transit, There's air quality when the contractor is building it, but energy is a big piece, so we have paid attention to that throughout. For instance, we've done platinum buildings for LEED, and you don't have to have solar on the rooftop to get platinum. The other thing is there are such things as urban heat island effect as imagined. In Erie, we've done the studies, and we've worked in Michigan and in the north. It actually, like in a city like Philadelphia, you don't want a lot of urban heat island effect. However, in a northern climate like Erie, you actually, over the year, you save more money if you have a darker roof because it's so cold here. So we've done those kind of studies. So what we've done is we've tried to be very energy efficient. We've tried to provide the access. There's a whole certification process you have to go through if you decide to be LEED that costs the project money. So what we've tried to do is just follow a lot of the principles, be thoughtful, be energy efficient, but not necessarily go for the certification, again, because of that money cost, but we haven't ignored it. We design all of our buildings with that in mind for LEED.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? It's interesting, at least from my perspective, the concerns that Ed rose were concerns that I have, and I will look further into it for sure. Also, I'm hopeful that you have contacted First Energy and/or Penelec as consultants. Their service is somewhat free on the electrical use, the energy, the safest way, plus the cheapest way, but most efficient way. Do not leave them out because they will play a very important role in what you plan to do. Trust me, I've been there for 20 years, and if they are not included, it could hold your project up.
Mr. President.
Okay, yes.
I'm sorry, I feel like my last name is Haran Kunso today. I have a million questions. Doing good? Quite seriously, though, there was another question mentioned about additional public access space being made available. And I think, Mr. Kidder, in your presentation, or part of the presentation, you mentioned how certain walkways are going to be further extended, and there's going to be more pathway through from east to west and vice versa. Is there a way to kind of qualify that? I'm not saying what's recommended for however much, per square foot, you can qualify that with walking space or something, but can you just kind of talk to the expansion of public access? Because that is very important to us and the rest of the citizens.
Any waterfront property has a requirement of a 12-foot wide public access along the waterway.
Absolutely.
That's not for discussion, debate, change. It's a requirement.
Right.
And this walkway that was installed on this property, GAF property, which is outside of our scope, it's not why we're here today, but it exceeds that 12-foot minimum clearance anyways. So even what they put in is above and beyond what the zoning requires. And it does fill in the gap that wasn't there when GAF was there. So the continuity is continuing to be, the dots are continuing to be connected. And what they've done is gone above and beyond what dimensionally zoning requires.
Right.
So, but again, that wasn't our project. We weren't involved with it, so it's really not part of our, public hearing today.
Sure. I just, for the sake, again, there are questions asked. If we have all the people in the room that could potentially answer the question, as you said, whether it's you are involved in that process or not, you have the answer to the question. And so that was something that came up in my mind. I thought someone may want to hear. And Mr. Wells may have some more information as well.
Okay.
Just to quantify, in the last 7.5 years, the Erie County Convention Center Authority has provided nearly 3/4 of a mile of linear feet of public access to the water that did not exist 7.5 years ago. That's well over 3,000 feet. When you look at what we brought to the public relative to the back of the Sheraton Hotel, the boating, the free public boating dock there, as well as wrapping the entire convention center and the GAF site. I will tell you that the public walkway along the former GAF site will open in the next few weeks, and I'm sure you'll all be impressed as to what the authority was able to provide back to its citizens who own that property. Thank you.
Mr. Witherspoon, on that public access topic, I don't know, we just got another packet of papers up here, sorry. What you were just talking about, Mr. Wells, about the extension of the public access walkway, we certainly are pleased that that will more wholly complete the area there on the bayfront. What I think Ms. Austin was asking, though, was on this curved part of the hotel, right, where there's a deck there. The deck sort of looks out onto the public access and then onto the bay. Is there some access point in which a person, like myself, who's walking on that public access might be able to go into the deck, and is there a cafe there, a restaurant, that I could go buy a cup of coffee without coming through the front doors of the hotel? And
Yeah, so basically, let me describe that a little better.
Okay, describe that.
So basically, the public can go along here. We have a slightly elevated walk here that will serve the pool as well as functions, and there's 2 stairs up there. Well, there's a ramp and a stair because everything is accessible in this building. This walkway continues, but there's an entry into the hotel right here, and then all the way along here, much bigger than the Sheraton, there's outside dining space. So you don't have to walk all the way around the building under the porte cochere into the entry to get into the space. It's very similar to the Sheraton, where you're kind of walking right on the edge. Now, obviously, the Sheraton has a vertical drop.
Right.
We have the angled rock drop, so you can get down at an angle to the lake. But there's walkways, or there's terraces all the way along here. This is the dining area for the restaurant bar, and there's a lot more outdoor seating than is at the Sheraton. It's a much bigger use. So that's the goal, that people don't have to walk all the way around. They'd be able to come right in here, go into that. There's meeting rooms directly behind these glass, and it's all glassy so you can see in. So that was a goal, to make sure people could get in and out all the way along. The fitness area is right back here, so when people are working out in the hotel, and that is keyed and only for
Right.
hotel people, but they will also be able to look out at the public walking by and to the lake.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, before I call Mr. Schmidt, yes, Mr. Schmidt up, I want to say to Ed, you have anything else you want to add at this time? Because I will be giving you a call and meeting with you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will be giving you a call. Okay, Armin.
My name is Armin Shemeni. I'm Secretary to the Planning Commission. Mr. President and members of council, the City of Erie Planning Commission at their regular meeting on June 17th reviewed waterfront conditional use proposals for a new hotel and parking ramp. The new hotel will be attached to the existing Erie County Convention Center. The parking garage will be adjacent to the hotel and connected to the hotel with a covered walkway. There will also be commercial space available on the north side of the parking garage. After reviewing the proposal, the Planning Commission unanimously recommends that council approve the buildings. The commission believes these new buildings should be granted permits on the grounds that all of the design review committee's concerns were addressed, and these are appropriate buildings for this district. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Hearing none. No questions. Council will vote on this at their next meeting. This public hearing is adjourned. What time you have? That clock's wrong. I got
The solicitor would love to have one.
now that I'm totally lost on this agenda.
I thought maybe they were different or updated or something.
Okay, Rose?
Look, empty now.
Okay, we're ready to resume the meeting at 11 o'clock when we're still on citizens to be heard.
Somebody wants to see it.
As far as I know, we were still on citizens.
Oh, yeah,
Hey, yes, we were.
Well,
Are there any citizens? For the record, are there any citizens to be heard? Are there any citizens to be heard? Are there any citizens to be heard? Hearing none. Rose.
Okay, that takes us to ordinances for final passage. Council file number 15881, official ordinance number 27 of 2014, an ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Erie, Part 1, Administrative Code, Title 7, Employment Provisions, Pensions, Article 145, Officers, Employees, Retirement System by amending Sections 145.02 and 145.15F by adding a definition relating to surviving spouse and amending the definition of survivor, and amending the position regarding anti-alienation in order to clarify the status of former spouses under the plan. That council file ordinance bill number 15881, and now known as official file ordinance number 27, 2014, has been passed by the city council. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rankunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski. City Council pass official file ordinance number 27 of 2014, finally by yeas 6, nays 0. Ordinance is for first reading. Council file number 15882. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $88,349.57 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue, $87,431.37 received earnings from the Enterprise Zone Revolving Loan Fund, and $918.20 program income. These funds are to be allocated into the Enterprise Zone program accounts. By Mr. Jones and seconded by Mrs. Haran Kunso, Council file number 15882, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Haran Kunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon.
Mr. Winarski is not present.
Mr. Winarski is not present. Okay.
And you may take him off the previous one as well.
Spirit, okay.
He's here. Now, because he was
He's here, yeah.
Did he leave?
Yeah,
No,
Right there.
No, he's here, but his, I'm sorry.
Mark that as a yes.
That would be, yeah, his silence is a
Mark
yes.
that.
silence
Yes.
is
Right in the
okay?
minutes, if he comes in and changes his mind, then you can change it.
Okay.
That's
oh,
right.
he's leaving.
Oh, he just left.
Oh, he's leaving. He's leaving.
We'll find him later.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. City
Silence.
Council read it out, Council file ordinance 15882 by yeas 6, nays 0.
Mr.
I never
President,
had anybody leave in the middle of the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to move the balance of the agenda.
I'll second
Properly
that.
moved
I'll
and
second it.
seconded by Councilman Jones.
Any separations?
Those are tricking me today.
Always a challenge.
Keep you on your toes.
No separations?
No separations.
Okay, then, moving the balance of the agenda. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Haran Kunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon. That will take us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Committee reports, Councilwoman Kunso.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things. I just want to thank the neighborhood watch groups and the Erie United Way for their efforts in organizing and holding the National Night Out events last evening. We are really fortunate in our city to have such great committed volunteers to help improve our neighborhoods and our community. So we thank them for their efforts and know they go to a lot of work to organize and plan these events and get groups together to attend and also to provide donations to their groups, and we appreciate the United Way for the funding that they do. So thank you very much. Also, just wanted to let everybody know we'll meet in our Finance Committee following our meeting today to continue to look at the mid-year report that the mayor presented and to have the opportunity to ask the Finance Director questions about the mid-year report. We're also going to continue our discussions on the delinquent trash collection and also look at what the city's timeline is for the audited financial statements and form a committee to keep an eye on that process. So we're meeting in Finance Committee and then also at the Erie Area Council of Governments this afternoon, meets at 3 o'clock in Harbor Creek. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I'll echo the sentiments that Councilwoman Kunzel mentioned about the National Night Out efforts that happened last night. Many of the city officials and staff from the city made rounds to multiple sites throughout the city and in the area for National Night Out events. And so it's a great time to get out and meet your neighbor, know your neighbor, and to be able to share some positive things that are going on in our community. In relation, I was at an event last night and there was I would like to say, a young lady, 5 years old, came up missing at one of the events. She walked away from her grandmother. And the effort that the police and the local folks that were there, I mean, they were intense. It was amazing to just see the community come together in that moment. And she was found and everything was fine to my knowledge. And it was just great to see parents and other, sick their kids home to say, we're going to go look for this other child. And the officers that were there and, they kind of quit doing the public, the ceremonial thing of showing trucks and cars to let's get down to business. And it was just a really heartening to see the community in that local area come together that quickly to take care of one of our most valuable citizens, one of our 5-year-old children. So I commend everyone and the public safety staff that were there and the citizens that were a part of that process and having a positive, and happy ending. Finally, I was contacted by folks from Destination Erie, and they would like to, Ann would like to have a study session, or is requesting time with council to be able to kind of give us some information on some next steps moving forward. And so I've already spoken to Council President, and I will look to ask the clerk's office to kind of find the best time where we can all get together and hear their presentation and hear how we can be a part of moving forward with what's going on with Destination Erie. I know multiple of us are involved on certain levels, but it'd be great to get a collective presentation to all of us and see how we can be a part of that process moving forward as elected body. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a report from my committees, but I had a couple things I wanted to mention about some events that I attended. Hands had an event yesterday where they announced a grant award for a project they're working on for the prior nursing home at 27th and Peach Street. I think it's going to be a great project. The project is going to provide homes for at-risk veterans and their families. This is the first phase, is the rehabilitating the historic Goodrich House right on the corner there. Then the future project is going to be renovating the rest of the building. And I think there's going to be 30 apartments in the rest of the building and 6 in that first phase. I believe that this project is definitely be good for the city, not just because it's going to provide needed homes for people, but also to help revitalize that surrounding neighborhood. I also attended National Night Out. I went to a couple events. I had a great time kind of walking through and meeting a lot of people, and I brought my son Nathan. I think he had a good time also. We visited Spoon Summer League Court, the East Avenue, Hess Avenue Neighborhood Watch, and also the West Bayfront neighborhood. But it was definitely a great opportunity to meet a lot of people, to see a lot of friends, and to talk about some of the community issues and a lot of the great things that are happening, as well as some of the concerns for our neighborhoods. Last thing is I wanted to mention that there was an earlier person came here to talk about LEED energy efficiency for building, and also for our concerns for the City of Erie properties. That's definitely a concern of mine, being an architect, and I know there are grants out there, which I think Mr. Witherspoon referred to earlier, but for repair or changing in lighting, for more energy efficient lighting, there's a lot of grants out there. There's also grants for just different things to do to provide solar, those type of things. But as explained earlier, there is a long-term savings for a lot of these items, and it's very good to try to look at what we can do efficiently. But there is a higher upfront cost on some of these. Not saying all of them, but I definitely think but there's a long-term thing, and I think long-term savings there, and I think we do need to look at that in the future and see what we can do. I'm sure a lot of it has been looked at, but I think continuing the conversation would be good for us and for the city, and definitely for the taxpayers. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Murski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things. Like everyone else, I attended National Night Out events, and our people are our greatest resource, and there's no other greater evidence of that than on National Night Out Day, when everybody comes together. People you haven't seen in a long time, and you get to know your neighbors. I want to apologize. There was a criticism that, not all the council people were at all the events. There's only one of each of us, and so to get to everything is impossible when you have 20 events in one evening in a 2-hour span. Just physically, you can't do it. And so for those that we missed, we do apologize. It's not that we don't care about your neighborhood at all. It's that there's so many events going on. And in fact, I even missed Mr. Witherspoon's, and I apologize to you for that.
Accepted.
Thank you. All right. Just a few things to report from my committees. Convention Center, aside from what we did today, the Seawolves, our attendance is doing very well. They're doing well with the team, and attendance is steady, and they're pleased with that. The Jason Aldean concert sold out in 20 minutes, and so the new renovations that they did are reaping benefits of bigger name acts, and it seems that the people are supporting the bigger name acts, and that's good for the future of the convention center, or the Erie Insurance Arena component of the convention center. With the fire department, I met with firefighters from Engine 6 on West 26th Street, and I'm going to try to get around to the rest of the firehouses before school starts, and then meet with the chief about the things that are brought up at those meetings. From the Parks Department, I went up to McClellan Park, and the road is going in for the dog park. Trees have been cleared for the dog park, and so the progress continues to be made on that property. One of the concerns that they did have is paintballers coming up in there and using it as their private paintball course, or I don't know what you call it, but so that's something. I know it's hard to patrol 40 acres or 30 acres up there, but that's one of the things that as people start using it, we're going to have to look at policing that area a little bit more efficiently. And then finally, just there's a lot of stuff going on. 8 Great Tuesdays, I'd like to thank the Port Authority for putting that on. I've gone to a couple of those, and they're very well attended. Erie, I think, doesn't realize how lucky we are to have so many free events in the city. The Jazz and Blues Fest, I stopped down until I got rained on, and then but the weather didn't deter a lot of people from going to that, and that was, thank you to the Erie Art Museum for that. And then finally, just there was a comment about our pensions. The City of Erie pension system is one of the best funded pensions in the state of Pennsylvania. What happened was they changed the law under the Bush administration that you have to fund your pension at 100% as if everybody retired today. And so when we say our pension's only 75% funded, it's really That would be if everybody that works for the city of Erie all decided to retire today, and we only have 75% of the money to pay them out. So it's really a misnomer to say that there's no money in the pension, because there is money there, and it's a staggered retirement system. Not everyone was hired at the same time. Not everyone's going to retire at the same time. And just in defense of our workers, the workers have deferred compensation to have a pension. And so, because we didn't pay the pension, or former city officials before us didn't pay into the system, doesn't mean that our workers are not, they've been putting in their share the whole time, and it's almost like a credit card. When you don't pay your credit card bill, sooner or later it comes due. We're just paying back our credit card bill that we owe. And we're going to get there, but, and we've made great strides in protecting our pensions. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that even though they say our pension is only 75% funded, that's as if everyone were retiring today. So our pensions are in good shape. Of course, we're always trying to get to that goal of 100% funded pensions, and but it's a challenge, especially with all the other pressing needs in the city, but we're doing our best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a brief report. We had our Summer Basketball League Championship for the young men yesterday. We had somewhere between 150, maybe 200, which is the smallest crowd we had so far when it was a championship game. I want to thank those who were able to stop by and witness it. Some of the sponsors were there, and even one of the sponsors decided to take that team out to dinner this coming Friday. So we're making great strides. There were young men who played in the 10 to 12, and their parents are saying, we should have had our kids here a long time ago. They're going to learn the real game. They're going to learn the rough game. When you're inside during the season, you're protected by the officials. You're protected by the wood floor. These kids were diving for the ball on concrete. So every time one of them hit the concrete, my knees start hurting. But it was a good season. The girls' finals are tonight. And we had a very, very good season. Special kudos to the police department and to the DA's office, who provide an officer as well. Their presence alone made a big difference. And I was informed by those who go on Facebook that it's interesting that if we have the black and white there, the troublemakers don't mind. They come anyway. But for some reason, when you park 2 all-black police cars there, we don't have no problem. And the question is, on Facebook, there's a couple of black 5-0 cars there, and they don't show. So then I took a look at the cars while they were parked. Yeah, those some tough guys. Good. So when they're on their regular duty, I'm going to request for administration to park one there, go to Macy's, get a mannequin, dress the mannequin up, let the mannequin sit right there, and I'll pay for the gas, just keep the car running. Whatever works, though, whatever works. So they do respect certain parts of it, and as long as they're there, we have no problem. And I appreciate the administration for their help, especially the chief. Thank you very much. I will not forget you this time.
I have no report.
See, I remember, no report. Thank you. Administration.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Sinnott and members of the administration also attended several National Night Out events last evening, as many as we could possibly get to. Want to thank the United Way for offering the mini grants to the community. It's a great way to get the people out in the neighborhoods, getting to know your neighbors. Of course, everybody knows what went on last evening. I want to thank the police and fire department for also coming out and showing it in force, coming with some of the vehicles and the fire trucks. I know the children certainly appreciate that. Celebrate Erie is next week, which doesn't mean the end of summer, I promise. The 15th through the 18th, Celebrate Erie will take place downtown. Taste of Erie kicks off on Thursday the 14th. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors. I clearly can't thank all of them, but Highmark, St. Vincent, Giant Eagle, the Sunflower Club was a big sponsor again this year. UPMC Health Plan, UPMC Hammett, Presque Isle Downs and Casino, and Harley-Davidson of Erie have all stepped up to the plate to make this a family-friendly community event, along with the Erie Community Foundation, ECRA, Erie Arts and Culture. So we're looking for great things to come downtown next weekend. Please come out with your families and enjoy the event. Mr. Witherspoon, congratulations on another successful year of Spoons basketball. Thank you for your commitment to the Erie community and for everything that you do for Erie's youth. And one last thing, Sounds of Summer wrapped up this week. Had a great event over at the Villa Apartments at Hands property. No rainouts this year, which was phenomenal. Thanking the banking partners of the Erie community for funding that event. And the seniors really appreciate the musicians coming and even playing for an hour in their community. So thank you very much.
Do we have a report from the solicitor?
I knew you were going to say that. I have no report, but I appreciate you acknowledging me, Mel.
Meeting is adjourned.
Mr. Brennan.
I couldn't let my man go.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky.
Is there a better time?